So 3 projects were supported by partners from outside the community. The partners carry out community consultation to take local needs and concern into account. They also involve community in decision-making at different stages of the project, and in some cases created a management committee. The other 2 projects were directly led by community-based organizations. There are also ecological criteria, such as increase in crocodiles population. This was observed in all the projects, by the way. And for example, in project 1, which focuses on Crocodilus mendolensis, the number of observed hatchling increased by more than 400% during the project. And in project 4, where sustainable crocodiles eggs harvesting was used as a source of income, the number of detected nests also increased significantly into the 2 species of crocodiles, respectively almost 50% and 80%. Reduction in treat was also observed. This is explaining by increased tolerance among local communities towards the risk associated with crocodiles. But also some change in fishing practices, such as banning certain type of nets and the establishment of fishing reserves. And in one project, nesting sites were also protected from invasive species such as water buffalo and feral pigs in Australia. Habitat quality also improved through the implementation of aquatic ecosystem restoration action and the creation of protecting area ranging to 200 hectares to 1.5 million hectares. And in terms of socioeconomic benefits, in some projects, helps to improve access to drinking water and farming practices. Also, benefit sharing is also an important criteria, particularly to avoid conflict of interest and individual enrichment. 2 projects also created a community fund financed through tourism revenues and egg sales. And this fund was used to support education, healthcare, restoration of traditional building, and even conservation activities. From an economic perspective, some projects generate income directly from crocodiles through eggs and juvenile sales, ecotourism, and also create opportunities to create jobs for rangers. And in some cases, the impact was quite significant because, for example, in Project 4 in Papua New Guinea, eggs harvesting increased by almost 300%, leading to higher income for local communities. Other economic benefits were not directly linked to crocodiles. For example, some projects supported the sustainable harvesting of medicinal plants and sustainable farming activities. And in Project 3 in Cambodia, communities that sometimes lacked food become self-sufficient and were even able sometimes in some years to sell surplus production, which is very impressive. And the capacity to enforce rules is very important in this type of projects. And it's a project studied regulation where seems to be successfully implemented. In some cases, community patrol were established together with local authorities, especially because some people from outside the community did not respect the rules, and the measure helped reduce burning activities, which were particularly destructive for wetlands, and also illegal fishing. Another interesting point is that eggs collection quota were respected, even when eggs collection shifted from subsistence activities to an economic activity. It did not increase pressure on eggs harvesting, what is particularly interesting. And finally, capacity building is a particularly important aspect of community-based conservation. Some projects implement sustainable farming programs, supported the development of tourism activities, and involve local community in crocodiles population monitoring. For example, there is one project in Papua New Guinea. They developed a participatory program to assess the effects of eggs harvesting on the recruitment of wild crocodiles population. Other projects also providing capacity building on legislation, natural resource management, and environmental awareness. So However, even though this project seems to have produced very promising and very impressive results, they also have some limitations. These projects are highly context specific, which makes them difficult to replicate. Each community and territory has its own cultural, social, political, legal, economics, and environmental characteristics. For this reason, a flexible and adaptive approach is needed. It should take local communities, it should take local specificities into account in order to better balance conservation goals with development objectives and meet the need of indigenous people and local community. Another limitation is a high dependence on local resources. The community involved in this project are often very isolated and rely heavily on natural resources. This can make the development of alternative economic activities more difficult. Not all projects were yet economically sustainable and depended on external funding. Dependence on foreign funding may limit project viability, particularly when financing support fluctuates or sometimes ends. To support the empowerment and resilience of local communities, projects should promote income-generating activities and diversify livelihoods beyond crocodilian-based activities, as some projects have done. This may help to reduce vulnerability to external shocks, such as tourism decline or fluctuation of the crocodile skin trade. And finally, it seems clear that we are facing survivor bias. All the projects identified in the literature were relatively successful. This may mean that other initiatives, especially those that failed or did not reach their objectives, were never reported or published. This is an important gap because unsuccessful projects can also provide valuable lessons. And better documenting this case would help us better understanding the barrier and limitation of community-based conservation and could help improve future crocodilian conservation policies. So to conclude, community-based conservation applied to crocodilian appear to be particularly relevant. First, it helps maintain aquatic ecosystem while developing income activities related to crocodilian or to other resources, and to benefit from the ecosystem services providing by this habitat while supporting biodiversity. And this approach benefits indigenous people and local community by support community in many ways, benefits crocodilian population, and more broadly can support long-term conservation efforts. We have seen that this approach can be applied at different scales. And finally, it seems important to give more attention to this approach because water-related challenges and climate change are already major issues, and they will become even more important in the future. And in addition, at least one crocodile species occur in more than 90 countries in the world, and human crocodile conflicts are increasing in the world also, and around 50% of crocodilian species are in the USN red list. So thank you for your attention. The community-based conservation approach is particularly important to me, and it's central to my work, especially as someone involved in international cooperation. So feel free to contact me if you would like to discuss and collaborate on other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clement. And on to the next. Let's see. Okay, and next we have Clement Nabe, and this presentation will be on challenges, experiences, and lessons from urban in situ conservation of the vulnerable West African dwarf crocodile in Ghana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. Okay, so this morning I bring to you urban ecology perspective of crocodile conservation with insights from our conservation action that we took in response to the findings of our surveys that we've been doing in the second largest city of Ghana, Kumasi. But before I do so, just want to mention that the preliminary findings of those surveys were earlier presented in CSG 2024 in Darwin. Now, there are 3 crocodile species, just by way of background, in Ghana: Ostelemus afzelai, Crocodilus succus, and the Mesetops cataphractus. But Ghana, just like many other countries, is rapidly urbanizing, with the Kumasi city listed among the 3 top cities that are rapidly urbanizing in Ghana, where people in the city, as usual, are more concerned about their businesses, jobs, and social life, with very least concern for biodiversity conservation, and in this case, crocodile conservation. Due to this, the Ostelemus afzelai, which we confirm its presence in the city, was highly threatened, either through being killed directly during habitat encroachment in the city, or being pushed into people's homes where they still get killed at the end if not reported for rescue. So our team took interest in this in 2019 to gather more information about the species. We reached out, on social media, gathering information and talking to people, and we identified 6 sites, as you can see on the map here within the city, where we conducted surveys just to confirm the issues about its presence and the challenges within those habitats. We also did some awareness creation around these areas just to kind of avoid, the killing and then the pushing into people's homes and reporting for rescue. Even we rescued a few of them during the surveys that we did. At the end of the surveys, briefly, what we found out was that 4 of the habitats were almost near lost because the areas were confirmed to have been sold out to individuals for development. And then the 5th habitat was a research site that they constructed a small dam, a mini dam within a small forest patch, where we got an isolated population there. We call it isolated because since 2019 up to now, we still have not been able to confirm a nest or even a hatchling in that small dam. Now, the 6th one, which is the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, where we recorded the highest encounter rates, was identified as a potential urban refuge for this species. But then we needed to further understand this habitat, the socio-ecological factors in the area, and to also understand some of the entry points for conservation action in the area. We included detailed nesting ecology in the area aside identifying the socio-ecological conditions. We confirmed some of the nests in the area, monitored until hatching, just to confirm both nest success and hatching success. We also further reported on the spread out population of this habitat, having all the age groups, the hatchlings, the juvenile sub-adults and adults in the area. But then this area, even though it's a university land that has not been sold to people to develop, it has its own peculiar challenges. And I will just play a very short video here, just for you to have a fair idea of the habitat. That is from the upstream within the university campus, where you already see agricultural activities that are taking place in there. And somewhere around the middle of the habitat is a very small portion of the botanical garden of the university. Beyond that is the middle portion where the university infrastructure is taking place, the buildings and the roads. And then the last end of the habitat is the complete downstream, where agriculture begins to set in again, but in a very intense manner, where the entire habitat area is converted for vegetable farming. And it's interesting to say here that all these agricultural fields that you see around this habitat all drive water from this stream to do irrigation, especially during dry season for their vegetable farming. And this is a major source of vegetables for the entire city. Now, moving beyond this habitat level, looking at the land use land cover change of the entire city from 1985 to 2026, you see the rate at which the city is urbanizing, and this tells us the level of pressure that is mounting on biodiversity within the city. Now, what did we do? Our team designed a very small restoration project with sponsorship from the Ruford Small Grant, and engaged with the university authority. And fortunately, we signed an agreement with the university to implement a Ghana riparian buffer zone policy, which allows us to set aside up to 30 meters both sides of the stream for the entire stretch within the stream, and then to roll out our restoration activities within that area. The area will be kept as a core zone, which will be free from disturbances moving forward, but actions need to be taken. You can see on the map, we have the downstream and the upstream, but you may ask why there is a portion no demarcation has taken place there. That is the botanical garden portion, which I mentioned in the drone footage, and this is just very small. All the populations that we have encountered so far are just within the, is there a pointer? Anyway, so it's just within the botanical garden area, and the question is why. We want to assume that the population is just confined in that area because of the availability of the forest cover, because everything is gone downstream and upstream. But then the question is, the population we currently have in that area, is it already up to the carrying capacity of that small patch? We don't know. And then another question is whether this is in the position to even keep any future population growth. We don't know as well. And then what we now want to do is that we want to extend this so that in the eventuality of future population growth, there will be more habitat to support the species, also taking into consideration that this species feeds both on land and in water, so it needs more habitat to be able to survive properly. Now, these were some of the areas that we planted our trees. We did 3 months intensive monitoring and maintenance after planting, and we had about 72% survival rate. This, in some areas in Ghana, you may say is good, but that wasn't our target. We wanted to at least get 90% survival or more, but we did not get that. The reason is because some farmers just resisted. They were skeptical about the approach. Some farmers also just felt that it was a strategy to drive them out of the area, and so they continued their business as usual application of weedicides, and then some of the seedlings after planting were sprayed and they died. Some manually also damaged the seedlings, and you have a picture down there that there is no seedling in there. This was sprayed 2 days after we planted, so everything died off. But we got back to the university, we got the farmers, we sat with them, and we are back to site to restore and hope that this time around there's no spraying. We also have plastic pollution and hunting, signs of hunting taking place in the botanical garden. Not confirmed directly on our species, we are still monitoring to see if this relates to our species. What did we learn? We learned that awareness creation alone is not enough to drive community support for restoration unless livelihood dependencies are addressed. We also learned that some farmers resisted just because they felt they were going to lose their livelihoods and their lands. And clearly defining land ownership and access rights between the university and the farmers will play a key role in sustaining these activities and getting farmers support. And also designing collaborative and integrated approaches that support both ecological and social benefits will be key in winning farmers' buy-in in the restoration activities we are doing. Now, looking forward, we will expand our engagements and partnership to mobilize more resources, to sustain and to upscale our activities. We will also strengthen our engagement with the university and the farmers to design the integrated approaches that offer both social and ecological benefits. And then, since we've already started our activities in the area, we will continue the monitoring and the maintenance of the trees we've already planted to make sure that they grow and the canopy opens in the core area before thinking to know what happens in the other areas to support the activities. Thank you so much for listening, all our partners and sponsors and organizers of this program that made it possible for me to participate. Thank you.
Like right on 10. Thank you, Clement. I love the habitat restoration approach. Amazing. All righties. Next up. Alrighties. Next up, we have Daniela Nosa, participating, monitoring, and multi-sectoral governance in the conservation of the broad-snouted caiman and Itunas? Itaúnas. All right. Brazil. All right. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniela, and I'm the coordinator of the sanitary and ecological monitoring of the Cayman program. It's an initiative of Marcos Daniel Institute based in Southern in Brazil. So this work is part of a long-term conservation initiative developed by the Cayman program in Itaúnas. The project began 1 year ago and is planned as a 10 years initiative, which means that the results presented here are still preliminary and part of an ongoing process. And these presentations, I will discuss how participatory monitoring, local knowledge, and multi-sectorial governance can contribute to the conservation of the broad snow caiman in a human-occupied and environmentally relevant territory. So we know that biodiversity, We know that biodiversity conservation requires more than biological data. Like, of course, ecological information is essential, but however, in human-occupied territories, conservation also depends on social participation, institutional coordination, and local engagement. And wildlife conservation becomes more feasible when technical teams, public authorities, local community, education institutions, and private partners work all together. And this study area is located in Itaúnas. It's a small village in the state of the Espírito Santo in southeastern Brazil. Itaúnas includes wetlands, water body, dunes, forest fragments, and human-use landscapes. So these habitats are relevant for the occurrence, like movements and human conservation of the caiman lachyrostris. At the same time, the territory includes local residents, fishers, indigenous people, quilombola groups, education institutions, cultural groups, and also environmental stakeholders. Another important aspect is that Itaúnas is located within a protected area. It calls like Itaúnas State Park. This work analyzes how participatory monitoring can support the conservation of the broad snow caiman, and it also highlights the role of the multi-sectorial governance in maintaining the conservation actions over the time. The main idea is that conservation becomes stronger when scientific knowledge is connected to local experience. And participatory monitoring is a central part of this initiative. Local residents, school, and community organizations contribute to by reporting caimans, sightings, occurrence areas, and environmental risks. These records expand the information available for conservation planning and help connect technical monitoring with local knowledge. Local knowledge helps the project understand the territory, including seasonal change, water dynamics, access routes, and wildlife occurrence. Community reports can indicate where the caimans are present and where environmental risk may occur. Over time, this information supports mapping, identifying patterns, and helps define conservation priorities in Itaúnas. The project also includes capacity building activities with local participants. This action supports ecological literacy about wetlands, caimans, and conservation practices. By involving schools, teachers, young people, and local community, the project helps reduce misinformation and promotes coexistence with the space. Participatory monitoring can help prevent conflicts between local communities and wildlife. When people understand caiman behavior and its ecological role, they can respond to the species in more informed way. This approach creates communication channels and helps conservation planning consider both ecological needs and local social dynamics. The project also recognizes wetlands as an environment heritage. Wetlands are not only ecological habits, they are part of a local life, water dynamics, cultural identity, and environmental memory. In Itaúnas, conserving wetlands also means protecting the ecological and social foundations that sustain all the territory. The project is based on a multi-sectorial governance model, bringing together public authorities, research institutions, civil society, and the private sector and local communities. Each sector contributes different resources, knowledge, and institutional capacities. This cooperation supports shared management and helps align conservation actions with public policy and long-term goals. Shared governance supports the continuity of the conservation actions for a long-term initiatives such as the Itaúnas project. Institutional coordination helps avoid isolated actions and strengthen planning. By combination, technical oversight, local participants, and shared responsibility, the project becomes more sustainable over all the time. The Itaúnas experience shows that conservation is strengthened by social participation, shared governance, and long-term planning. These results represent the first stage of an ongoing process for the conservation of caiman latirosus in this territory. To conclude, I would like to thank you everyone involved in this project, including the Caiman Program, Marcos Daniel Institute, the FIRE team, researchers, partner institutions, local community, and education institutions. I also acknowledge the finance support of ArcelorMittal and Espírito Santo State Water and Forest Research Fund. Their support has contributed to a long-term conservation initiative that connects biodiversity, territory, participation, and governance. I end here saying like the biodiversity conservation means caring together for what connects us. More information about the program and the Institute is available on this slide. We welcome to future collaborations in crocodiles conservation, participatory monitoring, and social environment governance. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be happy to answer any question.
Great presentation. I love the interweaving of culture and nature. Thank you so much. Okay. What's going on there? Okay, next we have, oh, is it not showing? What is going on? Interesting. 1 second, it's showing on the computer. There we go. Okay, next up we have the promoting of local community efforts towards the sustainable conservation of the slender-snouted crocodile by Adam and Young.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to tell the story of Mecistops cassifractis in my country, Nigeria, where every animal is at the risk of being eaten once it has an encounter with a human being. It's so far back, 2006, a European professor from the University of Rome cited a little Mecistops at the marketplace tied to a stick to be sold for bushmeat, and he documented it. And I became curious because at that point I was working on gorillas as a primatologist for my PhD. So I didn't know there was this crocodile in Nigeria until he brought up the picture. So I told him it could have been that this animal came from Cameroon. But along the line, he convinced me that it used to exist in Nigeria, and that's how we started the wanted poster, which was circulated across the country for anybody who could lead us to where we can find this animal. And it wasn't until 2017 that we met a hunter that showed us a newly killed skull. And that is what brought Matt to my village for the first time with Peter Abayam sitting there. They came to the site, they saw the skull. Thereafter, we intensified our efforts, and that's how we continued with a group of my students in the university and other volunteers, like you could see there. And we finally arrived at evidence of a recent individual killed in January 2025. For those who have read the CSG newsletter, you could have seen this story. It was published there. And today, I can say that habitat destruction, the unsustainable hunting activity, and then the absence of the knowledge about these critically endangered species in my country has not, helped matters. Of course, scientifically, The information published by other scientists shows the value of this species in a typical ecosystem. This is how we now extended our surveys, intensified in 6 states of Nigeria, Akwa Ibom, where I come from, Delta State, Cross River, where Peter is from, and River State plus Bayelsa. These are coastal states in the Niger Delta of Nigeria, an area regarded as a biodiversity hotspot in the Guinean forest of West Africa. And so, as it were, we set up to see the population status and their distribution. We try to see the major threats, then we try to design interventions according to communities, because across this region, there are different tribes, different cultures, and populations of people. And so we started building scalable framework. That's why you can see our participatory mapping. We had a friend from the US who donated some camera traps for us to use, but we didn't succeed in getting this animal. And so, as you could see, from the decade of discovery, it took us 10 years, 2015 to 2025, to arrive at these very insignificant results, whereby in the whole nation, we have evidence of only 8 living animals in 10 years. So that's where I'm grateful that the CSG brought me here, because the last CSG meeting I participated in was in South Africa, and since then, I've been out of the radar. So, the places, findings and the major threats, we've seen recorded 8 adult individuals, and then 3 mortality sites where they've been killed recently. The last one in the picture I showed in 2025. So, at the end of the day, the primary problem is the habitat loss. And then the incidental capture is the fishing method they use, an emerging fishing method that is so deadly. They put almost a kilometer length of fishing net. As you can see in the second, in the photograph there, the net blocks the vegetation and the water course, and it stretches such a huge distance, no animal can cross from the water to the land or from land to water. And you know crocodiles cannot stay too long without going to water. Monitor lizards, turtles, snakes, all these are killed and eaten, and I've documented them. So today we're trying to sensitize the communities about the need to change this method, and we try to give them alternative livelihoods. So, as Matt in the middle picture, when he came, and the children were so happy to see him, because we see that the adults are not responding to conservation messages per se, but the children are so interested in saving the species, to the extent that some of the young people call us on the telephone to tell us somebody has captured a croc, and I'll run with my team to the community. This is how we get information. So we've given some of them mobile phones to be able to pass the knowledge whenever somebody captures one of these endangered species. This is how we do community monitoring. And then we're trying to do cultural integration. And then we have community conservation committees, men and women, including youth, and then we have education program for schools. That's what we do at our Biodiversity Center. We give, like on Children's Day, 27 May, we give free entry to all the schools that are interested to come. So the livelihood continues. We give them fish farming. They grow vegetable gardening and so on. That's myself in a white cloth talking to the community members and helping them to build. So These are measurable outcomes that you see there, where we have determined the relic population in Bende. That's the place, but because of the cocoa boom, cocoa boom, people farming cocoa with chemicals, then that's the major threat in the new area. So we have done this, and we think this strategy can be upscaled in other West African countries, because in West Africa, bush meat consumption is a major issue. So I acknowledge the people who have supported our endeavors, and I want to say thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. I love the little wildlife champions you've created calling you all. All righty. So everyone in this session has been pretty much on the 10 minutes or a little bit under. Mr. Joey Brown, are you going to be able to continue this trend, or are you going to break it for everyone? You got this. All right. If not, you owe me a beer. Okay, tequila, let's do it. All right, so we have Joey Brown discussing the urban wildlife management and the aftermath of a mortality event of American crocodiles at sewage ponds in Jamaica. And go.
I'm starting my timer. All right, thank you, Marissa. So yeah, this is about, this mortality event took place Earth Day last year. This is gonna be in collaboration with my vet, Dr. Khan at the zoo, Treya, and then our NEPA collaborators. Let's jump into this. So before we jump into that event, we've all heard about the sewage ponds that we have here just outside of Kingston, right around Kingston Harbor. This is like a before shot before we jump into the Earth Day event. You got about a set of over 20 different ponds, massive, about the size of a football field, that have a known resident crocodile population. So various age classes, adults that have been there for years. And then video. Obviously, trying to get a video. All right, sorry, the video is not skipping around. So, I'm going to say, so we've been doing some work surveys here for years. That's the video. Okay. All right. Nothing? Skip it. Okay, so there's a known population of crocs here that move in these sewage ponds and then move around Kingston Harbor. The neat thing about the ponds is that they kind of act like a reserve for this area. This is a government facility called the National Water Commission, and so it's a very private area where the crocs don't get disturbed by people. See if this video works. Aha. So we've been doing surveys in collaboration with NEPA and Treya over the last several years, and it's proven we have various recruitment, age classes going on, and although water quality, and there's various concerns, the crocs are doing fairly well here from what we've seen so far. And we do call them our mutant shit crocs. So I was just showing a bit before. This is kind of the past few years, and then now Earth Day, the big issue that we're going to be talking about is these set of 3 empty ponds, or 2 empty ponds in the middle right there. So on Earth Day 2025, we got a report about a crocodile stuck in a dried up pond. There's this big 12-foot adult male down there. So with NEPA, we all responded down there to get this male pulled out. He's pretty much on his deathbed, very emaciated, dehydrated. We got him pulled out and immediately wanted to get him back in the water because he didn't have much time left. But there was like this smell of death in the air. You could just smell it, you could smell the decomposition. And so as we started walking around the ponds, we started finding multiple dead crocodiles in the ponds. And the thing is, when the ponds are full, the crocs can easily move.
Stuck with a stupid plastic.
Oh, I didn't know there's volume in this one. So when the ponds are full, the croc can easily move in and out of that. But when it dries up, you have this plastic liner that goes around, and it's very steep, slippery, and it's pretty much creates like a death trap where the crocs had no way to get out of these ponds. And it was pretty much a very depressing, horrific scene. As Trey was there, we were all like jaws to the floor, because from the top of the ponds you could only see so much. So as we jumped down in there and we started walking around, we started finding one dead croc after another. And these are like 9 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot plus adults, males, females, and we're all just speechless. Part of the fact was, this wasn't in a fast process. This happened over time and was a very dragged out, painful process for these crocs. So we were just kind of in total shock. In total, there's 8 dead adults, 4 juveniles. This is one of the more horrific ones. This is an adult male, adult female, a gravid female with about 28 eggs in her stomach that had bursted out. And this was, you could tell most of the crocs are around the edge of the pond. This was probably like the last remaining water bit in this, and these two were they stayed there together till the very end. One of the most kind of brutal things to see was all around the edge of the pond. You could see the scratch marks, the mud marks where the crocs were continuously trying to get out. The whole pond, you could see their marks were there probably for weeks even, trying to get out of those ponds. And just knowing kind of how long that went on for is pretty brutal to see. So one thing we wanted to do right away is even that night I went home and put this out on social media. We wanted to get this attention, bring awareness to this. So we definitely kind of sensationalized this, made a connection, especially with the male and female. They're called Romeo and Juliet. And immediately put it up on Instagram with collaborators and everything. And within days, it was several million views, and it went off. And the cool thing to see was, obviously crocs don't have the best reputation in Jamaica or anywhere, but everyone in the comments was like, this is horrific. There's no animal deserves this. And they knew this was a government facility, so they're all calling on the government like, this is not acceptable. And at one person after another, like, I don't even like crocodiles, but this is just disgraceful and brutal, and something needs to be done. And then, so sure enough, we shared several different posts, because this one, crocs in Jamaica they're protected species. And if this were to happen on anyone's private property, they would have been, punished, fined, and in jail. But this is a government facility. And so everyone was calling on the government to take action and do this. And then after those social media posts, I had reporters reaching out, asking me to send pictures, wanted to know about it. The next day, this was on the front page of our largest paper in Jamaica on the next page. And there's a full spread in both papers, calling on action for the government. Of course, the next day, the government, the facility told some lies, and so everyone was continually calling them out, demanding action, and someone be held accountable for this. But it was cool to see everyone in Jamaica, the media, the public, helping defend and support the crocs and wanting accountability for this horrific event. Sure enough, the day after that paper came out, I woke up 7 a.m. There's some random number calling me. And I said, hello? Joey Brown? Yes. This is Minister Smuda. He's like the minister. He's like, heard about the event. He's like, this is terrible. He's the one that is like over this water commission area. He's like, I'm putting together a team of different agencies. He's like, I want to meet. This is a Friday. He's like, I want to meet at the sewage ponds tomorrow on Saturday, and we're going to figure out what happened and make sure this doesn't happen again. And so we met down there that next day, which was awesome. Because I think it was Venetia said the other day, if you get your policymakers in your field site and let them see what you're going through, it makes a lot more difference. So they pulled up in their cars, and you just get out of your car, so you could smell the decomposition, you could smell it, and so it made them, all these politicians hit them that much harder. The death was right in their face, crocs decomposing, the smell, and they were all, could barely stand it, and it helped them see the wrath of that much more. And he literally sat down, and he's like, all right, what's the immediate thing we first need to do, The sewage ponds, they used to be monitored a lot more by the Water Commission Agency. They used to always have someone stationed there. In the last year, they pulled that person, and no one's been there. We had told them years ago when the ponds got lower, they needed to put in wildlife ladders, some type of access, so when the ponds do lower, crocs, animals can still get in and out. Have that. This is what we did a few years ago. So this is just an immediate thing. When the water levels got low, we took a bunch of easy pallets, we tied them together, and we put them around the sides. And then you give some distance, and 2 weeks later, all the crocs use those ladders to get out of the ponds. And so Minister Samuda had demanded the Water Commission to immediately put those ladders all around the edge of the ponds till they figured out a more permanent solution. And then since then, they have one of their Water Commission people that do weekly checks on the ponds. The NEPA officers it's now part of their kind of like routine visits to go down there and do much more frequent visits around there and make sure, because the ponds are still empty, so we're making sure no more crocs go down in there, and if it does, we can act on it right away. And to not end on such a depressing note, here's the most beautiful, shitty sunset you'll ever see. So I just want to thank all our partners and collaborators, Lawrence, Treya, our man Yan, and this was actually one of the original guys. This is the guy who used to live at the sewage ponds, and he would always call us when something was going on. His name was Eric. Thank you. Under 20 seconds. Got it.
Good job. Oh, thank you, Joey. It's so sad, but it also just illustrates these kind of issues that there is still empathy amongst people, even if they don't like Crocs, and it's how can we utilize these moments to really, again, not try to get people to love these animals, but just at least respect them and just try to build that coexistence. Thank you for that. All right, man, this session is awesome. Everyone's like 10 minutes or under. So our last presentation for this particular session is, we've got conservation, inclusion, and sustainable development, once again by Daniela Nosa.
Hello again. So, who wasn't here before? I'm Daniela. I'm a part of the Cayman program. And this presentation summarizes the program's environment education, inclusion, culture, and conservation actions in 2025. So I told the Itaúnas project has 1 year, but the whole project has 11 years and continues developing environmental education sensibilization actions aimed at the 3 main goals: biodiversity conservation, civic formation, and strengthening of the relationship between society and nature. Our goal is not only to share information, but also to promote participation, dialogue, and connection with the biodiversity. The program works through different education strategies. This includes schools, educational spaces, events, short courses, guided visits, civic society organizations, and partnerships with the public and private institutions. This diversity allows us to reach different audiences, so we can adapt our communication to each context. Our main actions include activities in schools in Vitória and Itaúnas now, technical and scientific short course, and education initiatives with partners such as ArcelorMittal, non-governmental organizations like us, and associations and cultural centers. These actions strengthen a place-based and socially engagement approach to environment education. The program also develops inclusive environmental education and sensibilization practices. These activities are adapted for different audiences, including children, youth, adults, older adults, and persons with disabilities. This includes participants with autism, spectrum disorder, multiple disabilities, and low vision or blindness. So to support the accessibility, we use tactical materials, natural sounds, education games, individualized facilitations, sensory resource, and empathic approach. These tools helps create educational process that promotes accessibility, belonging, and participation. For example, the tactic materials allow people to explore biological structure through touching, and natural sounds and sensory resources can help create more immersive experience. Educational games support learning through the interaction, and the purpose is to ensure that each person can participate according to their own way of perceiving, learning, and also relating with the nature. The images shows children and participants interacting with educational materials, biological replicas, sensory resources, and guided activities. These moments are important because they transform conservation into a live experience. Instead of only hearing about biodiversity, participants can touch, observe, ask questions, and build their own understanding. This approach helps create emotional and cognitive connections with nature, especially with species that are often misunderstood, such as caiman, right? In 2025, the Caiman program expanded its impact with the inauguration of the Caiman program at the educational space in Itaúnas. This space integrates conservation, culture, ancestry, and local biodiversity. Itaúnas is a place where biodiversity, traditional knowledge, cultural memory, and environmental challenge are deeply connected. And therefore, the educational space was created not only as a place for exhibitions, but also as a space for dialogue between science, community, culture, and conservation. So you can see in this slide the non-formal education space in Itaúnas. The space includes educational panels, visual materials, guided activities, and field experience. It was designed to community scientific knowledge in accessible way and to connect the biodiversity conservation with local identity. In 2025, the Caiman program reached 7,714 people directly benefited. This included participants in national events, student educators, visitors, and people engaged in educational, culture, and science activities. These results shows the program's commitment to environment education, inclusion, social transformation, and sustainable territory development. For us, the numbers are not only indicators of reach, they also represent opportunities for dialogue, awareness, participation, and a long-term engagement with the biodiversity conservation. To conclude, I would like to thank you everyone who contributed to the Caiman program in 2025. I thank the Marcos Daniel Institute, the Caiman program team, educators, researchers, field collaborators, partner institutions, school community, and all participants. I would like to acknowledge Two, the support of the ArcelorMittal and Bank. And for those who are not familiar with yet, this is the motto of our institute, by nature, the best of our humanity. For those who would like to learn more about, you can find our contact in this slide. And before finish, I would like to highlight we have a Cayman library that's free and it's in our website. It brings together educational materials produced or used by the program, including book, guides, lesson plans, and material for different audience. Like this is a game, the one, and you can just download in the website. These resources help make scientific knowledge more accessible and support environment education beyond specific events. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Oh, I'm gonna have to talk to you about that game. That looks awesome. All right, first off, amazing to all the presenters. I think we're the only session that has about 10 minutes or under. So good job, everyone, for being on time. With saying that, we have about 10, 15 minutes for questions. So if I can have all the presenters come up for a panel discussion, please. Have a seat, have some water, relax. Amazing, great, fantastic presentations. Do we have any questions for our presenters? Any comments, any questions? We got one.
Yeah, for the Argentinian project, I remember in Santa Fe, I think Alejandro presented how the project, yeah, Brazilian, never mind. Cancel. I saw your name on it. So maybe just one comment for Joey, that kind of frontal approach with government can backfire. If you had done that in some of the countries I work for, you'd have to run out the same night. So watch out. Activists get killed all the time.
All right, we got Sean and then we'll get Sally. Oh, okay, thank you.
I'll do the running and you can.
Oh, yeah, they need a mic.
This is for Joey. Do you have any follow-up to that? You know, what's happened since the placement? You also talking about long-term solutions they were talking about for egress from those ponds?
Well, they have increased, the monitoring is the big thing. They've done a lot more frequent checks up there, but I think right now they're trying to figure out because even the other day, Trey showed me something that they might just decommission those ponds altogether. This is literally just the other day. So before we put in any long terms, right now we still have the pallet ladders down there and everything, and just try and do frequent checks as possible. But if they end up taking those ponds out of commission, then hopefully, they're going to be required to remove all that rubber, the plastic liner. So we just don't know the future right now.
Same question about the ponds. Here in Morocco, it's a really huge problem. We have also ponds and a lot of other species of reptiles, snakes, lizards, mammals also. We had, for example, 3 fennec foxes in the same ponds dead. Could you check, could you have verified if there were other species and dead, and if your system have worked to save them?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Have you checked if other species than crocodiles have been dead in the sewage ponds when you were there, and if they could be rescued with the system?
So we, since that all happened, I guess?
When it happened, when you were checking when you found the crocodile deads?
Yeah.
Have you found other species?
No, we only have the one croc species, American croc, Acutus, in Jamaica. And then besides that, like we don't really, Jamaica doesn't have, we have one mammal species. It's a rodent, pretty much. And the ponds are pretty much just inhabited by birds and everything as well. And that's partly why the crocs hang out there, because there's a pretty good bird population around there as well. So they have good food. But we haven't seen much else there. I know when they put in those ponds, they rehabbed those ponds in 2020, and Trey was with NEP at the time, and they put in their proposal that they need to have these exit wildlife systems when they were first doing that. And of course, they totally ignored these suggestions for the proposal, and this ended up happening several years later.
Joey, I was just going to ask, very similar to what Paolo said, that it could be a risky strategy with that. Yeah. And I'm glad it's worked out for you the way it has, because obviously they called you in to look for that animal. You know, give out too much bad press, they just stop people coming in looking altogether.
I know.
So it's
I learned.
Yeah, it is a risky strategy, but and again, I'm glad it worked out. But it's a delicate one, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
If you hadn't have done that, you might not have got the solutions, because you would have been banging on a bureaucrat's door that was closed. But
I think I would have done a lot more anonymously, like in the future. Because I think that day I got home, I was horrified. Like it was one of the most
you were
traumatizing. Like, it was just horrifying to see that. And I think I just went home and I didn't want to put it on our zoo page. I know I wasn't going to do that. So I just threw it out there. And then it was like days later, someone powerful came to me and they're like, "Joey, you're here on a work permit. Yeah. They can kick you out." So I was like, "Oh yeah, that's true." So I think I definitely would have handled it a bit better in the future, but I'm glad.
It's a good lesson for us all to think about, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's how do we manage that diplomacy at the same time get the action that we need? Like it's one that we always need to consider. You right up there, Marissa? No, that's all right. I'm just going to say any more questions, but I'm not the moderator, so I thought I'd better ask you. You guys are busy up there. I'll continue to dance or whatever. Any more questions, guys?
Just a quick question with regard to the outreach. I know it is a main focus heading towards the youth of the country, but is there also similar outreach to the elder community where perhaps it would create awareness not only within themselves but within their families and potentially a legacy for some donations for future conservation?
Can you repeat
yes, sorry.
just the English?
Sorry. I know the focus of the outreach is mainly on the youth of the country. I'm curious as to whether there's any outreach through perhaps senior centers or other elder community venues where you might create additional awareness, but then also perhaps get a legacy contribution towards conservation in the future from those individuals.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
We speak for older people too. Yeah, we have all this work with young people and the wolves and older people too. Yeah. It's a really nice work, and they really like a lot when we take the animals. We have, sometimes we take alive animals, sometimes just replicas, and it's very important. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm wondering, with your outreach as well as with what you're doing, do you also engage a lot with the elderly as well? And just kind of going more into that, her question, what are your experiences with the elders in your community?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the elders do not really show commitment to conservation of this species. because the elders feel that, for example, the government officials at the top, they are corrupt, they are stealing millions of the national funds for the nation and banking them overseas, and they don't go to jail, nobody does anything to them. So why should you do anything to anybody killing an animal to eat? You know, and as such, they are indifferent about it. They're not really concerned. Then the few of them who are aware of conservation, those are the ones that we've been working with and trying to use them to reach out to the rest of the community. But sincerely, it's the children that is our hope. They are very enthusiastic. They don't, I must confess that to trace, if we may have seen a picture where I lined heads of gorillas that were butchered and published in the book Primates in Fragments. It was children from the community who led me to those gorilla heads. No adults, they don't accept that anything is going on. So we depend so much on the kids, and that's why we are doing publishing books, drawing books and materials to give them in schools freely to carry all the children along, hoping that if the Mesisto, for example, survives the next 10 years in Nigeria with these children, the future will be better for this species. Thank you.
And quite different situation in Ghana. So what we do there is we look at both the youth from the school's perspective, and then we also engage the communities where we mostly deal with the elders. And the idea behind that is when it comes to the real habitat destruction, is the elders that do that because they do the farming. And then when it also comes to the cultural aspect, it's still the elders because they understand the tradition and the customs, and they even try to maintain it. But then the children, just as my colleague mentioned, they are the future of tomorrow. So we definitely have to also put them in the loop in the awareness that we create. So we have it in two dimensions. We engage at the schools level where we work with some clubs that we normally form, just to keep remembering them of their responsibility too as they grow. And then we also do the community engagement as well. Thank you.
And I respond before the, like we talk with older people in Vitória. There's a urban city, and they receive us really well. But in Itaúnas, the talk it's a little bit different because it's more like not teaching them and learning with them. So it's a kind of different, but they're like engaging too, but it's different.
That might work. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Marissa. So this is actually for Edem as well. I was really impressed to see how the project had secured the funding from the SGP, the Small Grants Programme, under the United Nations Development Programme. So I know you haven't seen many crocodiles in those 10 years, but you have had that multi-stakeholder engagement that went from government through to research, through to admin, and obviously also looking at the private sector. So you alluded to the alternative income generating activities that might be a way of incorporating some form of mitigating any human-wildlife conflict or illegal activities. So it's a kind of two-pronged question. One, is there going to be a follow-up to that SGP grant and the project? And secondly, what kind of alternative income generating activities have you been looking at and will be looking at into the future?
Thank you very much. We we got the SGP grant twice, and by their policy, they cannot give us another one because there are so many other organizations that have not gotten ones. So for this, they won't give us again. And then also the worst thing that happened to us, the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund that funded us as a follow-up to the SGP, this year they've opened their call for grants and Nigeria is removed. So we don't have any hope, and that's been very serious because we started a program of aquaponics for the communities. We gave them ponds. Some of them are doing well, and they have been into poultry farming, while the women particularly wanted dry season vegetable gardening, which we gave them seedlings and other materials. But now we don't have the money to sustain this program. And this is why we started campaigning with music. I wanted to play the music here. Yes, the video. Okay, so we now go singing at occasions, entertaining. I lead the singing, and I write the songs, but conservation, we call it conservation a cappella. So this is what we've been doing to raise funding. And then we charge little gate fees for those coming to the center to see our Nile crocodiles and then dwarf crocodiles that we keep in captivity, and then the tortoises that are currently reproducing. That's what we've been able to do. And as such, the other problem is, if you check our website, for example, it's almost impossible to click donate and donate anything to us because of the national policy. So to give us any assistance, you need to go to the bank to go and do a wire transfer. This makes it almost impossible for anybody to give us assistance from outside. But we have not given up. We're still continuing because we found the area where pollution is the main problem. We've convinced the community they won't kill the animal anymore, but the agrochemical that they use for farming cocoa ends up in the waters, kill the fishes, and the crocodiles leave the water because of the pollution, and they get killed by hunters and in traps. This is the issue. So thank you for your question.
All right, that is time. So if anyone has any more questions in regards to the presentations, please find them during break. We have to keep on moving, but thank you all so much. Let's do a round of applause for our presenters. Now, before getting some delicious treats and some coffee, we do have 2 videos to show. One of them is by Adem, and so just give me one moment while I move this over to the screen. Am I doing it? Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm assuming that is, yeah. All right, so this is just a 3-minute video. Wait, let me go this way. I really should just be getting my daughter to help me out over here. Okay,